Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike Grab, Mr. Grab. Today we'll be going over the economic factors in the U.S. Civil War. So briefly, I'm going to show you off I'm going to screen share with you real quick. We're going to screen share our Do Now paper. And it's also going to serve as our classwork paper. 1 second. Sorry about that. So it's also going to serve as our classwork paper as well. So actually, do you see both me right now? So, okay, let me say something. I don't know if it's in the final video, it's gonna show up with two faces of me on here, but that's because I'm on two different devices right now. And I'm currently screen sharing from one and I don't have a mic on me right now. So I'm using my other device for the audio input, okay? So I'm not too sure if it's actually gonna do that. Let me try to get rid of that. Stop video. Oh, that didn't work. I'll just start video. Okay, so for our Do Now, we're gonna do 3 parts. It's gonna be think, pair, share. Okay, so just a preface to this, the lesson plan is designed around having a Zoom interactive classroom and having a in-person interactive classroom. Okay, so what I mean by that is for parts of it, students will be able to go out on their own. For the up here, you see that there's a thing that says Economics U.S. Civil War. That's their PowerPoint. They're going to read through that, but I'll read through it with you guys and give you the answers to questions. So they in an actual instructional setting, they would be going through that with their partner. So let's get into Do Now. Think. What do you think? What have you learned in previous classes about the Civil War, and brainstorm what are some strengths and weaknesses to do with both sides of the war, so the North and the South. Okay, so the North has a high population, has factories, has cities. Okay, that's why I put down. And for the South, I said it's a primarily agricultural center, and that it's a that they have a ports as well as the North, and their main export right now at this time is cotton. Okay. So at this point in time, I would have students pair up. They're going to pair up with their, if they were in person, they'd pair up to the person next to them, right? And then from there, they would share, okay? So it's the think, pair, share, something light and simple. Being that we're on Zoom, I would have to be administrating that with them. I would have to be putting them into breakout rooms and whatnot, put them into breakout rooms, check in with them every so often, and then tell them after about a 2-minute period that they would come back into the main room, okay? So let's get into our research questions. Let's see, here we go. So for our first question, what are some contributions of that Eli Whitney is known for? So right here, we have a link to our slide deck, and we're gonna fill that out. So I'm gonna share with you the whole time. I don't know why, oh, okay, there we go, fixed it. Actually, we're at the end of the slide deck, my apologies. Okay, so now at the beginning. So minimize that real quick on my other screen. Okay. So our essential question, what I want students to think about when doing this lesson is, what supplies or resources are needed in order to wage war, right? That's a pretty important question in any class, not just the economics class. So let's look at the map here. So at this point, it's 1861 or so. The war goes on for the next few years, and we have the seceded states, sorry, and the Union, okay? So it's just important to get a picture of, I always think it's important to get a picture of the map in our heads. That way we know what's going on, okay? So let's talk about Eli Whitney. I'm gonna move my head, that way you get a good picture of him. Okay, oh, my apologies. So Eli Whitney, I'm gonna go run through this real quick and then we'll answer the question. So Eli Whitney is known for making the cotton gin and patenting it, okay? He also popularized using interchangeable parts within the United States. On the bottom right corner, we see that it says Eli Whitney's improved firearms, made in Whitneyville, okay? With this weapon system that he's made, it made it so someone unskilled like me, who's not a gunsmith, could make a gun, after the parts are made, of course. So interchangeable parts is the idea that parts can be made ahead of time by a factory and then either shipped off somewhere to be assembled, or in-house, it can be assembled by someone who isn't a gunsmith or isn't someone who's fully skilled in it, who isn't fully competent. So someone like me with a little bit of training could assemble and screw everything, and then they can ship those weapons off to wherever the front is, or wherever country or military needs it. Okay. He came under contract with the United States government to produce 10,000 firearms. He eventually fails to do it in that two-year period. However, Congress really liked the idea of what he was doing. Okay. He also created the cotton gin, which, as we know from previous classes, I hope, is that the cotton gin, in a way, kind of revolutionized the agricultural system in our country in regards to exporting and not exporting, but producing cotton at least. So because of this, it made it so the seeds were much easier to take out via the machine, instead of having slaves and other people, manually go through the cotton and pick everything out. So the machines would do it for them, and it actually led to a boom in the demand for cotton, because the faster you can produce something, the more you need of it, the more you want to sell of it. Okay. Let me move my face again. So industrialization. Actually, let's get through some of those questions. Let me stop sharing real quick. Then we'll get through some questions real quick. Okay, so contributions of Eli Whitney. What was he known for? So he was known for the cotton gin, and it led to an increase of cotton production, the demand for it, and the demand for slaves. Okay. He was also known for interchangeable parts, which is crucial as industrialization goes on, as we'll get into this slide. Okay. And then number two, what was the invention mentioned in that was patented in the PowerPoint? The cotton gin was patented by Eli Whitney, but however, it was copied a lot. Okay. It was a simple design, and it's copied frequently. Okay. Let's see what else. And it also led to the greater demand for cotton exportation. Okay. Now we're going to go to number three once we get back to screen sharing. So let's get to it. Share. Okay. So another key thing is that in the first half of the 19th century, the industrial revolution was in full swing. Okay. And even according to the National Park Service, that the North had 23 million people compared to the 9 million of the South. Okay. Both the North and the South had a railroad system of their own. However, the Southern railroad system wasn't as, how do I say it, wasn't focused between states as well. It was only in the state you would have a railroad system, not in between states. And that kind of was a detriment to the South. But the North had 20,000 miles of railroad, and the South had only 9,000. So there's a much greater difference. And a railroad system is good because good for a power that is fighting another military or another country, because it's able to supply troops, ammo, and supplies, and anything else that you need to support your war effort. You know what I mean? So say you look at the map here, you'll see that the map is kind of vast. Okay, so you see that again. Sorry, I'm looking off this way because I have the sharing is on the screen. But you have Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, other states up here in New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and you're trying to bring people all from these states. You're drafting them at this point and having them serve. They need to fight down here, though, right? So you need a faster way to transport your troops, which is why the train is crucial at this time period. Okay. Let's see what we said. So I said in the answers for number three, I said 23 million people in the North, 9 million in the South, and that was our pattern of immigration and industrialization. So most of the immigration and industrialization occurred in the northern states compared to the South at this point in time. Let's see if this will go. Okay, let me move my head again. We also see here that the value of slavery, the value of slave stock actually goes up almost exponentially at this point in time. It's rising increasingly as we get towards the tip-off point of the war, 1860, 1861. It's almost more than it actually is more than it's ever been worth, is slavery. And we see the economic value of slaves is actually, some estimates say that it's more than the nation's railroads, factories, and banks combined. Okay, so for number 5, it says, what was an economic asset that in the eyes of the South increased heavily prior to the war? And that would be slavery. So slavery, slaves were in a higher demand before the war as a result of the cotton gin, and then the value of slaves increased, I guess, as it seems as more and more issues surrounding slavery occurred, and especially when you're talking about that tip-off point at 1861 and 1860. Okay, and now let's get to the next page. Exports. So by 1860, cotton accounted for half of all exports from the United States. We were supplying, I believe the number was 2/3 of the world's cotton at this point in time. Of the whole world, we're supplying 2/3, which is crazy to think about, but that's what happened. And it was a vital product for both the South and the North to produce, because some of the refinement occurred in the North. And we see that in 1840, it was only 35% of total export. Whereas over here, we see that's nearly half around 1850 and 1860 as well, okay? So why was cotton a crucial export for the United States? Cotton was a crucial export because all throughout the war, 1800s, sorry, not the war, cotton was nearly, if not more than, or roughly half of all exports. That's why it's crucial for both sides to keep that money flowing in, okay? We have one more question after this. We're gonna go into the revenues of each country now, of the North and the South. Okay, so for the North, we see primarily the thing that's used the most is bonds, then taxes, and then banknotes. Okay, U.S. notes are a very large, small sum by the end of the war for the way that the United States gained revenue. Most of it was through bonds and tax revenue. And in the beginning of the war, is only bonds and revenue, no notes. And the only part where U.S. notes picked up in speed was during 1863 for the most part, and it dies down by 1864. Let me move my head real quick. Okay, I think that'll be good for the next activity we do. Let me move it a little bit more. There we go. I apologize. So here we actually see almost the opposite. It's kind of interesting how the South is set up compared to the North. We see that for the most part, government notes are actually the opposite. So we have all throughout the war, notes picks up in worth, not worth, but usage from their respective governments. And it's interesting also to see that the Confederacy actually has 0 tax revenue in this year, and almost like barely any tax revenue for these few years, and it only starts to pick up by the end of the war when you consider the rate of growth there. And we see that it's actually interesting because we see that the tax revenue of the North, they're taxing a lot. They have to tax a lot, especially as the war goes on, because it's becoming more costly. But we see that most of the revenue from the Confederacy is actually gained through the use of government notes, which is just something interesting to think about. So when I wrote down for the number 7, I said use figure 3 and use figure 4. How did the North and South find revenue? So I just mentioned that they all use bonds, taxes, and notes. I said that the North was primarily focused on those 3 in that order, whereas the South was focused on the 3 in a different order, which would be banknotes, bonds, and then tax revenues. Okay, so let's hop into our exit activity, and then we'll be good to go. So here I'm going to click on this little Jamboard. Let's see. Is it going to work? Okay, perfect. Stop sharing real quick. I'll stop sharing, that way I can talk to you. Okay, so what I want to focus on for this activity is this is like their final assessment on this topic. So not like a test or anything, but it's for me to see if I need to reteach the topic or anything like that. Okay, so let's actually switch this over. There we go. Okay, so what I need from them is I want them to write down a few key differences in the North and the South. So let's hop over to that Jamboard and we'll get started. share, and we're good to go, it seems. I think so. Okay, looks like we're good. So what were some of the main differences in the economy of the North and the South? Leave your answer in the form of a sticky note. Oh, I was supposed to do that, I'm sorry. Yeah, so leave your answer in the form of a sticky note with your name after your response. The answer will be submitted and graded. So just briefly, some of the key things that I think are interesting, not interesting, but required from the students would be primary differences in the economies of the war, comma, I should put a comma there, but I'm out of space right now. The North industrialized for the most part. They had a good way to raise revenue. They had a better way to raise revenue through taxes. They also had a better train system, like they had more trains. The South was agricultural and did not have the population or the ability to fund the war as successfully as the North. Okay, so let me save that. And then if students even needed to, we can also add in other like two sticky notes per answer. And then they would sign off their name like I did on this slide here. They sign off their name, that way I can grade them, okay? So let me stop sharing and then we're good to go. Oops, it's not working, okay. So I hope you guys thought that this was informative. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions regarding this lesson, please let me know in the comments section. All right, thank you. Have a good one. Take care, bye.